This offseason has been full of interesting moves and surprising contracts. It's a time for the worst teams in the NFL to use their cap space and make moves to improve for the upcoming season. This year, a lot of teams got better over the offseason, including the draft, and I'm going to be going through 5 teams that I think had the absolute best offseason after some research, and if I think any of these teams have done enough to compete for the upcoming 2026 NFL season. Thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope you enjoy.
These linebackers, outside linebackers.
2nd and 10, look out. And is that going to be a fumble, which is taken by Barton in the air? There's no whistle yet. And Barton, what a night this guy's having. Jaquan McMillan is the guy who hits Rattler as the ball is being released, and for the moment, ruled a touchdown.
Number 5, the Denver Broncos, an A offseason grade with a B- draft grade. The Broncos kind of surprised me with how active they wanted to be this offseason, not because I didn't expect them to make moves, I did, but the majority of their moves were on the defensive side of the ball, when they already had such a fantastic defense last year. This just means it got even better, and I think this offseason has solidified them as one of the best defenses in the NFL. They signed the top available safety Talanoa Hufanga to a 3-year, $45 million contract to shore up an already very good secondary. They also added linebacker Dre Greenlaw to the middle of their defense on another 3-year deal. 2 key pieces to the 49ers defense have now joined forces on an already loaded defense in Denver. They then re-signed defensive tackle DJ Jones to a longer and larger contract, as he was one of their best players up front. In this draft, they then took kind of a surprising pick, drafting Thorpe Award winner Jahdae Barron at pick 19 in the first round, putting him next to PS2 in that secondary. Barron will more than likely play the nickel in Denver and secure the slot corner position that they struggled to find a guy for last season. I like the pick. I just feel as if they could have used the help on offense a little bit more to help Bo Nix out, but regardless, it was a good value selection. They then did decide to pivot to the offensive side of the ball, signing tight end Evan Ingram to a 2-year, $23 million contract, finally giving Nix a new target to get the ball to. Ingram, I believe, is one of the more underrated tight ends in the league, as he was overlooked because he played on a really bad Jaguars team. They drafted running back RJ Harvey out of UCF, who ran for 1,500 yards and a whopping 22 touchdowns last year for the Knights, as he should be a welcomed addition to a lackluster running back room. They also added wide receiver Pat Bryant, who I wasn't a huge fan of coming out, but he will have an opportunity to compete right out of the gate. The draft wasn't as great as I was expecting it to be for Denver, but it was solid nonetheless, and their offseason was even better. I think we see a very dangerous Broncos team come 2026, and they become a team to keep your eye on.
Yourself. 42 seconds, 2 timeouts. See what Carolina can do. Young goes up top, and there's Jalen Coker, the rookie in a foot race that he'll win. Touchdown from 83.
Number 4, the Carolina Panthers, a B+ offseason grade and an A- draft grade. The Panthers had a lot of money to spend going into the offseason, and they definitely spent it. The biggest transaction was re-signing corner J.C. Horn to a massive contract of 4 years, $100 million, with $70 million of that guaranteed. I like J.C. Horn a lot as a player, and when he's healthy, he's one of the better corners in the NFL. However, I don't think he's been healthy enough for a contract of this magnitude, and making him the highest paid DB in NFL history is a stretch for me. But regardless, they keep their star corner for at least the next 4 years. They then stayed in the secondary, signing one of the best available safeties in Trayvon Moehrig. I was a big fan of Moehrig coming out of TCU, and he's been really solid in Vegas for a while now. They signed defensive tackle Trayshawn Wharton to a 3-year, $54 million deal, which was a bit confusing to me as he hasn't really started much for Kansas City and wasn't the best run stopper, which is what the Panthers really needed. They still get a solid pass rushing defensive tackle up the middle though, and pairing him with Derrick Brown may even open up more opportunities for him to succeed. Staying in the trenches, they signed defensive tackle Bobby Brown III from the Rams, and this one I really like as he is a very consistent run stopper, joining a defense that was really bad against the run last year. He's also only 24 years old and on a 3-year contract for the Panthers. Transitioning to the offensive side of the ball, they brought in 1,000-yard rusher Rico Dowdle from the Dallas Cowboys, and now pair him with the newly emerged Chuba Hubbard in what is a solid running back room now. In the draft, they brought in wide receiver Teteroa McMillan from Arizona, which I absolutely loved, as he's a massive jump ball wide receiver and a perfect X receiver for a struggling Bryce Young. They also got good value on edge rusher Nick Scorton from Texas A&M in the second round, and then Princely Umanyamelin in the third. Adding the explosive Trevor Etienne to an already good running back room and getting great value on a massive run-stopping defensive tackle Cam Jackson out of Florida in the fifth. All in all, the Panthers got a lot better this offseason, and I think we see a much improved team next year if the coaching staff can figure it out.
Harrison Jr. make it right.
Will Hernandez. Whoa, there's a fumble into the end zone. It is grabbed by McBride. And he's in. Let's see where that fumble was picked up. It's going to be ruled a touchdown.
Number 3, the Arizona Cardinals, a B offseason grade with an A draft grade. The Cardinals were a team that went 8-9 last season, and it was a much improved season from their 4-13 finish just 2 seasons ago. They had a good amount of money to spend in free agency, but most of their efforts went towards signing depth players on small or smaller named players to just fill some holes. The biggest of their offseason moves was edge rusher Josh Sweat, who they signed to a big 4-year deal. Sweat was playing under Jonathan Gannon when he had the best season of his career with a total of 11 sacks. This year he reunites with him as he's coming off of an 8-sack season and gives the Cardinals a much-needed presence in their edge rusher room. They signed defensive tackle LJ Collier, who is coming off of the best season of his career. And they keep a strong figure up the middle. They also brought in wide receiver Zay Jones to their wide receiver room, who I don't mind at all as their third guy behind Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson. They really did their best work in the draft, though. They selected defensive tackle Walter Jones in the first round out of Ole Miss, which I think is a perfect move for the Cardinals as they need to get a lot better up front than they were last season. They then got maybe the steal of the draft in round 2, selecting cornerback Will Johnson, who before injury was one of the best available prospects in this entire draft, and if he can stay healthy, they got a fantastic value for him. They took edge rusher Jordan Burch from Oregon in the third, which was pretty good value and a guy who had solid production. I like the nickel corner selection of Denzel Burke in the fifth, as I think he was talented enough to go higher, but really just fell because of his size. Overall, a really good offseason for an emerging Arizona Cardinals team that's been getting better and better each year with Jonathan Gannon.
No timeouts. Stafford unloads, hit as he throws. Ball game. Brisker. Bears win.
Number 2, the Chicago Bears, an A+ offseason grade and an A draft grade. The Bears had debatably the best offseason of everybody, with massive splashes from GM Ryan Poles. I went over their offseason already in my Who Will Win the NFC North video, so I'll just skim through it this time around. Their focus was on the interior of their offensive line, where they traded for all-pro guard Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. They also signed Jonah Jackson to play the other guard position and center Drew Dalman. They brought in Falcon star defensive tackle Grady Jarrett on a big deal as well to secure the middle of their defense, as well as signing Colts pass rusher Dayo Odeyingbo to maybe a bigger deal than he was worth, but he's still a developing pass rusher. The trenches on both sides of the ball for the Bears got a whole lot better, and they are going to be a lot stronger of a team and a harder team to push around next season. Their draft was fantastic as well. They took Colston Loveland in the first round to give their young quarterback a fresh target to throw to, while also getting great value on wide receiver Luther Burden III from Missouri in the second round. They got Ozzie Trapilo out of Boston College, the offensive tackle, in the third round, who again was great value as he could work his way up to even a starting job this season barring injuries. Shamar Turner in the third was a great pickup as well, put next to Grady Jarrett, and Zah Frazier in the fifth was someone I was very high on as he had a great size and speed at the corner position. All in all, a very exciting offseason for the Bears as they look to turn from their 5-12 record from last season.
Backpedal, working his way on his end of the field and gets there for the catch at the 30-yard line. Trying to get to the outside. The speed of Douglas. Into Buffalo territory.
Number 1, the New England Patriots, A+ offseason grade and an A draft grade. Patriots had a very rough season last year. They switched quarterbacks midseason and had rookie quarterback Drake May start quicker than they wanted. He did perform at a high level, but Gerard Mayo was fired as well, and now they have a new coach, Mike Vrabel, who was probably the best available head coach on the market. They took some massive swings in the offseason. They brought in a total of 14 new players from free agency alone. The biggest of these names being defensive tackle Milton Williams from the Eagles, who was rated as the best available player in this free agent class. Williams had supposedly agreed to a deal with Carolina, but the Patriots swooped in with a higher offer at the last second and flipped him to New England instead. They then signed wide receiver Stefon Diggs to a very weak receiving core, and he should be a valuable addition for the young Drake May. They signed Raiders standout linebacker Robert Spillane to a nice contract, trying to secure the middle of their defense. Spillane is one of the more underrated linebackers in the league, so I like this signing a lot. They also brought in cornerback Carlton Davis from the Lions, who was a fantastic boundary corner for them last year, and now gets to play next to one of the better corners in the league in Christian Gonzalez. Garrett Bradbury was also signed at center, and Morgan Moses at tackle, all to block for their young quarterback. The draft was great as well, taking even more offensive line help in the first with Will Campbell, the top available tackle in the draft. They then took running back Travion Henderson in the second round, which I liked a lot. Kyle Williams from Washington State, who is one of the more underrated wide receivers in this draft. Jared Wilson in the third from Georgia to secure their interior of their offensive line, and getting Joshua Farmer and Braden Swinson in the fifth was fantastic value, as both players have potential to start right away. Patriots had such a good offseason, and now it's all up to Drake May to flash some ability come 2026.